In today's world of shifting alliances and incredibly advanced weaponry, the line between a strategic advantage and a catastrophic error, well, it has never been finer. So tonight, we're exploring that critical question, the one that's echoing through the world's corridors of power right now.
You see, this whole conflict began with a critical strategic assumption that America underestimated Iran, in much the same way that Russia completely misjudged Ukraine.
What we're seeing here is a dangerous historical parallel. Russia's miscalculation in Ukraine has dragged them into a war that's now over 1,000 days long. And it really begs the question, has America just made the same fundamental mistake with Iran? Now, what's really fascinating here are the immediate consequences. Just think about it. The United States, a global superpower, is suddenly forced to shut down its own fortified embassies in allied countries and tell its citizens in places like Oman to find shelter. It's essentially pulling back its security guarantees. The entire strategic calculus has shifted. These military bases, which took decades and billions of dollars to build, were once symbols of American strength. Now, they're just seen as exposed positions on a hostile chessboard, almost like sitting ducks for Iranian missiles.
Okay, so let's shift our focus to the domestic front, back in the United States, and see how this conflict is being perceived. Because a narrative is really taking hold that America was drawn into a war it never wanted.
Defense experts are using this term more and more to describe the strategic corner America finds itself in. The theory is that the U.S. has essentially been used as a tool, a means to achieve another country's political goals in a fight it never would have picked for itself. And this really highlights the growing disconnect between the politicians in Washington and the American people. A huge majority of Americans are against this, and it's fueling protests everywhere, from Times Square all the way to the White House. And that sentiment isn't just on the streets. This is from a sitting member of Congress, and it perfectly captures that deep-seated fatigue all across the country. After decades of war in Iraq and Afghanistan, there's just very little appetite for another one. But then, a single event happened that would shift this whole conflict from a strategic problem to a profound moral crisis, changing how the entire world saw this war practically overnight. This was the turning point. A bombing in the Iranian city of Minab, and specifically at a primary school, became the one defining image of this conflict's terrible human cost. 160 young lives gone. That number just echoed around the globe. It triggered immediate calls for investigations from both UNESCO and the United Nations, and it did severe damage to America's moral standing on the world stage. And here's the crucial point. This act of aggression, it backfired spectacularly. The images of the funerals, that sense of shared grief, it completely galvanized the Iranian people. It united a population that was fractured, even people who opposed their own government, against a common enemy. So, as America's attention and all of its resources became fixed on Iran, its global rivals started to see a strategic window of opportunity opening up somewhere else. You can really see just how interconnected the global stage is. With America's focus locked on the Middle East, you've got strategic moves accelerating in both Asia and in Eastern Europe. For China, this whole situation in Iran provides the perfect cover. Beijing knows that America's military, its intelligence, its advanced weaponry, it's all heavily committed right now, and that creates a major incentive for them to press their advantage with Taiwan. And for Russia, America's diverted focus, well, that could be a strategic gift. With Western attention and, more importantly, weapons supplies potentially split, the balance in its long war against Ukraine could shift, and shift decisively. Okay, so let's dive into the final inescapable logic of this thing, the military and economic trap that's been set. Here is the fundamental imbalance of this conflict. It's the core of modern asymmetric warfare, really. It's how a less powerful country can neutralize the advantages of a superpower. Iran is waging this war with inexpensive, homemade drones and missiles. America is defending against them with multi-million-dollar fighter jets and billion-dollar defense systems. It's a strategy designed to bleed a wealthy opponent dry, without ever winning a single conventional battle. And this leaves America with a stark choice. One path means staying and just continuing to bleed money and international standing. The other path is to retreat, which would signal weakness to the entire world. It's a tactical checkmate, and there's no easy way out. So in the end, the nation is caught. It seems to have trusted promises and badly underestimated its opponent. And now America's in a position where it can't fully commit to winning, but it also can't afford to back down. And so the world watches. It watches as the most powerful nation on earth tries to calculate the price of a war it may not be able to win and cannot afford to lose. The next move on this global chessboard, well, that is anyone's guess.